If you can master this mindset, you can master photography. And it's not what you think. It's how you think. Meaning there's no fancy camera or fancy technique that will make you a master. It's how you approach the craft that will change everything. Because although many don't see it that way, mindset is one of the most important assets when it comes to art, crafts, sports, even life in general. So mindset itself is very underrated. You see, there's a great story of Pablo Picasso that I love. I might butcher some of the details here, but please bear with me. He's in a cafe one day, some lady recognizes him, approaches him, and asks if he can draw her something, and she will pay him what it's worth. So he scribbles something up on a napkin and says, that'll be $10,000, or whatever, some absurd, ridiculous price. She replies, $10,000, but that only took you 10 minutes. And he says something along the lines of, wrong, that took me 40 years. And then he crumples up the drawing, puts it in his pocket, and walks out. Now, whether that story is true or not, I have no idea. It seems to get tossed around a bunch, the details get mixed up, but I think you get the point. One of the lessons here for many artists is to value your work. Know what your worth is and charge accordingly. But the other lesson in this story is about effort and dedication. Under every successful artist is a mountain of hard work that we, outside looking in, can't see. And although the drawing itself took him only 10 minutes, the skill to draw at that level took decades. So the first thing to understand about mastery is that it takes a long time. And it's nearly impossible to commit yourself to something for so long without the proper mindset. So today we're going to talk about the mindset of mastery. And it's not complicated, it's quite simple actually, it's just hard to do. Let's get started. The fixed mindset. If we want to understand how to think, we must first understand how not to think. This is because many photographers have the wrong approach and wrong mindset when it comes to photography. They want to get good quick, they think other photographers are gatekeeping the secrets, and they think that if they had the same gear as this other photographer, they'd take the same quality or better photos. And maybe if you did have the best gear, you'd be a better photographer. Maybe if you had the right presets to give you that professional look, you'd have better photos. Or maybe you're just not good enough. That's the harsh potential reality we have to consider. And if it's true, that's okay, because everyone starts somewhere. And you can't get good without first being bad. And so accepting and understanding that you are whatever skill level you're at and not trying to fight it is the first step to getting better. You see, the default mindset that most people have when it comes to mastery is the fixed mindset. A fixed mindset is the mindset of many beginners, people who get in their own way, and usually results in frustration with the craft and other people. It's often you'll find people with this mindset raging in the comment section, trying to discount other people's successes and blaming the world for their unrecognized genius. In short, a fixed mindset is 1. The belief that your qualities and skill level are more or less fixed and permanent. 2. The belief that talent overrides hard work and no matter what kind of effort we put in, it doesn't change that. 3. The tendency to avoid challenges, refuse constructive criticism or feedback, feel threatened by others, and an inability to be responsible for your own failures. All of which can lead to people saying things like, I'll never be as good as that person. I've tried that before and it didn't work for me. That person only made it because they had a head start. Maybe their parents were rich or they had some unfair connections or whatever. And there's a common theme here, which is the belief that your growth and mastery are things that are outside your control. And that for others, there was some sort of cheat code or platform that they could just jump off of. And here's the important thing to understand. You might be right. Other photographers or artists may have had benefits or luxuries that you simply did not have. Other photographers might be more skilled, talented, or more of a natural at their craft than you. All of that could be true. But the point is, it's not useful to think so. It's not going to get us up out of our bed to do the work that needs to be done to take us where we want to go. And it's not going to help us achieve mastery at anything by simply believing that others have something that we do not. The only thing it'll result in is us wallowing in our own self-misery, lead to us blaming others and never taking responsibility for our own lives. However, if we can shift the way we think into a mindset that can improve our lives, we can think in a more useful and positive way. And then we can frame photography and life into such a way where we can actually start getting the things that we want, which also means improving our subpar or mediocre talent. And eventually it can result in us achieving a level of mastery that we would have never thought was possible before. So let's talk about that. The growth mindset. In contrast to the fixed mindset is something called the growth mindset, which is the key to getting us out of our own ways and taking steps to where we want to go. You see, while a fixed mindset believes that our skill level and talents are largely fixed, a growth mindset believes that these things can be changed, worked on, and elevated. Some qualities of a growth mindset include 1. Viewing challenges as opportunities. 2. Embracing constructive feedback. 3. Learning to compare oneself to oneself, not to others. 4. Being process-oriented rather than results or goal-oriented. And 5, which is kind of like the other ones, which is viewing everything as a way to get better. So you can see already how having this kind of mindset is already more useful than having a fixed mindset. Because the way you think affects what you do, which affects how you achieve mastery over the long run. Remember, it took people like Picasso and Da Vinci their entire lives. And mastery really is as simple as adopting the right mindset to play the right long-term game to eventually get good. You've all heard of Malcolm Gladwell's whole 10,000 hours thing. The idea that it takes 10,000 hours to become a master at your craft. The thing is, many people think that's a requirement to becoming a master, when in actuality, it's the minimum. And many of your favorite photographers and artists have spent way longer than 10,000 hours perfecting their craft. So you might ask, how can any one person work on something for so long? It can't simply be passion or love for the art or whatever, because we're all human and we all get bored. And even doing something that I really enjoy, like writing, taking photos, making these videos, etc., can become tiresome. So the trick to getting through all that is the mindset, like we mentioned many times already. If you learn to approach photography with a growth mindset, you'll soon realize that you're not actually trying to achieve mastery. Rather, mastery is something that will eventually happen on its own as you've done something for a long enough period of time. But really, the key here is to figure out how to do something sustainably so you don't burn out along the way. Which again, being sustainable means having the right mindset, being able to embrace constructive criticism, viewing challenges as opportunities, and being process-oriented instead of goal-oriented. The point is, mastery is not something you pursue or get. It's simply an inevitable byproduct of doing the craft. And it's one of those things where one day, you'll have done it for so long that people will eventually look at you in that light as a master, but it's not something you were trying to achieve or become. You were just trying to create the best stuff you could. And there's no medal, no trophy, no announcement that signals that you've become a master. And if you want to achieve mastery, I'd argue that trying to become a master is a surefire way to not become a master. Why? Because of the very reasons we mentioned earlier. It'll have you focus on some elusive, undefined goal instead of on the craft itself, which can easily lead to frustration, burnout, and the other drawbacks that we mentioned earlier. And so the only way to play the game long enough to eventually become a master is to either love the craft so much that you just do it all the time every day, or maybe you're driven by a negative emotion and so you're haunted by what you feel compelled to create, or you could just choose to build a healthy mindset around the creative process. Those are our 3 options, and I'd recommend to not go the starving or haunted artist route because it just doesn't sound like what would make for a good, healthy, and happy life. So if you understand this, you'll understand that talent is actually irrelevant in most of these cases. Because it doesn't matter how talented you are if you stop playing the game. It's like the whole famous quote, the person who loves walking walks further than the person who loves the destination. Wanting to become a master is a surefire way to not become a master. Loving the craft, however, is a more easier, sustainable way to become a master. So all of this is to say, it's simple, but it's not easy. Being able to commit yourself to something like photography for a very long time is hard, and most people won't do it. And that's okay because most of us don't have to, and most of us don't even want to. But if we're talking about mastery, understand that that's the type of dedication it takes. And it's your choice if you want to take that path. And you don't have to full send it, there are other alternatives to getting there. Let's talk about that. Practical frameworks to adopt a growth mindset. Great. So hopefully you're still with me. We now understand that mastery takes a long time. It also takes the proper mindset to achieve. And all of that stuff is actually the bad news. The good news, however, is that you can adopt a version of the growth mindset that is suited towards you, your goals, and your life. And you don't actually need to focus on becoming a master or want to become a master to become a master. So what do I mean and how do we do this? The reframing method. The first and most straightforward way is to review that section on the growth mindset and apply it to your life. Learn how to view challenges as opportunities. Learn how to embrace constructive criticism. Learn to compare yourself to yourself and not to others. And start becoming more process-oriented. So what I mean by this is literally pay attention to yourself, observe yourself, what you do, and how you react to things that come at you in the world. And little by little, try to cognitively reframe these aspects of you and your life into more positive ways of looking at the world. If you find yourself getting frustrated with what you create or what you're doing, understand that there's always a small lesson to be gained out of everything. Something you can learn from, different ways to take picture, and different ways to apply it to your photography. If you find yourself getting hurt by what other people are saying about you on social media, first, don't even bother. Getting angry and responding is simply a waste of energy. Second, maybe they're right about something and you can use that as a way to improve yourself. Now, if you find yourself being unmotivated to take or edit photos or work on projects that you want to work on, understand that the you tomorrow will thank you for it. And if you find yourself comparing yourself unfairly to other artists that are better than you, remind yourself that the only true fair comparison is of you to yourself and the person you were yesterday and the person you are becoming tomorrow. And if you're concerned about your own progress and you feel frustrated with not being good enough, let's move on to the next example, which might help you with that. The project method. Let's talk about the second way to apply a growth mindset to your photography. You've probably heard about the famous photography story about the professor who assigns his students different projects. One group, he gives the entire semester to create a perfect photography project. I forget the exact details. The other group, he simply has turn in something every week. And at the end of the semester, after comparing the group which was aimed for perfection versus the group which was aimed for completion, the latter created more and better work. So it's a very simple example which basically shows that the mastery of art or your craft or photography is done via iteration, not by trying to be perfect. Rather, when we try to make something perfect, we'll often second guess ourselves. And we also never get the benefit of leveling up our skills by completing and finishing projects. However, if we just get something in, every week we'll learn something new. And with every iteration, we get better. As opposed to trying to spend all this time trying to perfect one thing, we're just focused on getting it done and getting better. So this applies to anything in life. It can apply to creating a weekly YouTube video. If you make one video a week, you will get better naturally over the course of a year, and you're not trying to get better, you're just trying to get the video done. You can create a weekly painting. You can create just one song a week, or maybe just a mini photography project a week. But if you focus on this, if you just focus on making stuff, you'll get better without realizing it. So that's what to do if you're frustrated with your lack of progress. Shift your focus of attention onto what you do, not where you are and where you're trying to go. I applied this framework myself when I was making my recent photography zine, The Sinking Sun. I was tempted to wait until I was good enough to make a photo book. But deep down, I knew I could always wait forever and never end up making anything by justifying that I wasn't good enough to do so yet. So I shifted my reasoning over to this project method. The project was not about making the perfect photography book. Of course, quality-wise, I'm going to try to make it as good as it can be, but perfection itself is an illusion, because the real purpose of this project was to challenge me and make me better. And it worked. I built the book, launched the book, sold a few copies, and became better for it. And that is simply one more step to mastery, which is also going to be the mindset that I continue to use and apply as I move on to future photography projects. 1% a day. Now, let's say you're struggling with having a growth mindset on the day-to-day basis. Here's another framework that might help. It's called 1% a day. This is one of my favorite frameworks to use and apply, and you've probably heard me talk about it before. Whether whatever you're going through is easy or hard, just focus on 1% a day. Meaning that's your sole job, your sole focus. Improve 1% a day or get 1% done a day. You're not worried about how good it is. You're not worried about how it's going to perform or what other people are going to think. And you're not even worried about whether or not it's going to pay off later. You're just focused on getting 1% done a day. And this applies to anything in life, not just photography. 1% a day is a low enough minimum bar that it's easy enough to accomplish. And what you'll start finding out is that you'll often overshoot this number quite easily. And you'll almost accidentally end up making more progress than you intended. But trying to improve 10% a day is often a bar too high that is too unsustainable. But 1% is a small enough number to hit on even your worst days. And if you do fall short, that's okay. Just try again tomorrow. So this framework is a great way of applying the growth mindset to your day-to-day life. This is because it focuses on the long-term compounding, the small incremental improvements, and patience. And remember, patience and a long-term mindset is what's required for mastery. And just 1% of improvement day to day over an entire year can lead to massive results. So there we go. That's the mindset to master if you want to master photography. It might not be easy, it might take a long time, but that's the route we gotta take. So let's sum it up and bring it full circle real quick. First, understand that having a fixed mindset is not a good idea for mastery. It leads us to becoming frustrated, burned out, and angry with the world. However, in contrast, adopting a growth mindset is one of the best things we could do. That way, we can learn from our mistakes, learn from others, and create sustainably for many decades. And that's what will eventually lead to mastery. Think the Picasso example. Then, if you wish to practically apply a growth mindset, try using any of these 3 methods. 1. The reframing method, which allows you to reframe your mind and your thoughts whenever you're thinking negative things that a fixed mindset would have, and reframe those into a growth mindset. 2. Try the project method, which focuses on weekly projects that will make you better and improve your photography instead of aiming for perfection. 3. Use the 1% a day framework, which has you focus on the small, incremental compounding growth factors instead of trying to improve too much every day and beating yourself up for not achieving or not being where you want to be. So if you can do all 3, great. If not, just start with the one that works for you and work your way up. And there we go. Master this mindset and master photography. We went all over the place today, but I hoped it helped. I hope it made sense. If it did, please share this with a friend who you also think it might help out. Also, if you're interested, please do check out The Sinking Sun, my latest photography zine. It's a project I've worked a long time on. And you can also follow the link down below to grab a free 4x6 print if you haven't yet. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you guys later. Peace.